Yo, it's your boy DZ, man. You already know it's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Drake is bringing the heat, man. And Drake is facing some heat. So, him and Kendrick is at war. And he wasn't feeling that he didn't get this time to use the bots as Kendrick did. So, Drake said he gonna sue, man. He ain't playing about this one.
The rival between two of rap music's biggest stars, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, is entering a dramatic new chapter. Drake's company has filed two legal actions accusing Universal Music Group, which represents both of the artists, of defamation and illegally boosting Lamar's viral song that targeted Drake, Not Like Us. Lawyers for Drake allege UMG enacted a scheme to, quote, artificially inflate that song. Here to help us unpack it all, NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Chloe, I want to start with you. Of course, we should note that Universal Music Group is not part of NBC Universal, but for those who forget, remind us how this all came to be. Where is this beef stemming from?
Well, this beef goes back, Sinclair, years. I mean, it dates back as far back as 2013. They've been putting these diss tracks out against one another, and they used to be friends. I mean, they used to collaborate. They did music together, and then things went really south, and then things reached a fever pitch over the summer. But this is just this massive breaking point in music fans. It's all they can talk about. Looks like the beginning of a lawsuit. I'll let Danny weigh in on that, but this is a petition from Drake's legal team saying that Universal Music Group, which, by the way, both these artists are part of Universal Music Group, which is the irony there, that UMG took part in illegal practices to promote Kendrick Lamar's summer hit, Not Like Us, that they used bots, that they used pay-to-play tactics known as payola to artificially enhance his hit, that it supposedly was a Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit for weeks on end, but that really UMG did this in a deceiving manner. And I just want to point out that Universal Music Group says that we employ the highest ethical practices in our marketing and promotional campaigns, and that this is completely not true. And we're also waiting to hear back from Kendrick Lamar. But this feud has reached a whole nother level.
Well, let's talk about the legality for a minute. Danny, I do want to bring you in here and take these claims one at a time, starting with those allegations of illegally boosting that diss track, Not Like Us. Is that illegal if it is happening? And does it matter that the company represents both artists here?
It could be. Just because it's not illegal in the sense that it may not violate a criminal statute, it could potentially violate, for example, New York's False Advertising Act, New York's Deceptive Business Practices Act. It could just be generally tortious. It could be something that unlawfully or intentionally interferes with existing contracts. A creative pleader can allege all kinds of different tort violations. Those are civil wrongs as opposed to criminal wrongs. This is going in the civil direction, and it may even include allegations of civil, not necessarily criminal, civil RICO, the same kind of tortious interference with contracts that civil RICO provides damages for.
And Danny, what about Drake's defamation claims? He's not actually taking action, notably against Kendrick, at least not yet, but the music label is who he's targeting. He says the company knew Kendrick was, quote, falsely accusing him of being a sex offender. Those were some things that came up in lyrics of songs. So how could those claims hold up legally?
Yeah, what we're looking at today in New York and Texas, these are not lawsuits. They are essentially, and I've filed these in New York dozens of times. What you do is you think you have a case against some defendants, but you want to get some discovery to find out who the real bad guys are. It's possible that the two named respondents here that we're talking about may not end up being defendants at all, although I think that's highly unlikely. I think they will. But the point is, just because somebody isn't a defendant, a named defendant in this petition, doesn't mean at all that they won't end up being a named defendant ultimately in a civil complaint for damages. What we're looking at now, these petitions, they're not for damages. They're only for asking the court to say, hey, freeze all these documents, give us some of these documents, whether or not you end up suing these guys.
And we're still waiting to hear from Kendrick as well. Chloe Malas, Danny Savalos, thank you both.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about...
Okay, Drake said he's dropping the lawsuit, man. He dropping the lawsuit on him. Not dropping it, but he's making sure they get sued. And I think he's upset because the machine went behind Kendrick and the machine didn't go behind him. And he's so used to the machine being behind him. We all knew that. And this is what happens though. He's suing his label. And I wouldn't be surprised if his label sent the wolves after him. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because we already see when these artists start trying to sue the people that put them in position, it don't go well for them. Ask Diddy. When they try to sue the people that put them in position, it don't go well for them, man. Check this out.
Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and now it's at the center of a legal dispute, with Drake filing petitions to find out if Universal Music Group artificially boosted the popularity of Kendrick's hit diss track, Not Like Us.
They not like us.
Hold up. They not like us. Hold up. Nah, they ain't gonna get me like that.
The opinion of two actual attorneys. Joining us now, ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer and entertainment attorney Kevin Cassini. Let's start with you, Brian. Do you think Drake could have a strong case here?
Well, let's just be very clear. Like you said, this is a petition, not necessarily a lawsuit. And the argument that he's making is that he has enough information that he's asking the court both in New York and in San Antonio, Texas, to be able to depose individuals in UMG, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, because he believes that he has enough information to show that he can question these people, to show that there were bots that were being used to inflate the popularity of Not Like Us, or other techniques like pay to play or other schemes to inflate the popularity of the song. So I think at this procedure, he may have enough, but the question is, does he get the requisite information if he does get the depositions down the road?
Kevin, what do you think? Where does this go from here?
Tough to see what the end game would be. I agree that he's got high-powered attorneys that know what they're doing, that wouldn't have taken something this far unless they believed they could follow through. But I think you have to be careful when you cast aspersions. It seems unlikely that Universal would have to use those tactics for Kendrick's release and not for others, maybe even including his. So you might be careful what you're asking for here.
And here's a question for both of you. Kevin, we'll start with you. If these petitions are not actually about whether UMG boosted popularity of the songs, which they deny, then what do you think it could actually be about?
Well, there's always a PR component to all of this, right? I've heard questions online about perhaps this is a way for him to get out of his recording contract. Maybe it's an attempt to keep Kendrick Lamar from performing the song that shall not be named at the Super Bowl. I'm not sure exactly where it goes. Could be that the discovery, the disclosure that they're looking for will help them figure that out.
And guys, we know Kendrick makes some accusations about Drake's character on Not Like Us. Brian, why do you think he wouldn't have gone after a defamation claim instead?
Yeah, that's a really interesting aspect of it. I think maybe you're one of two things. First and foremost, we are seeing aspects of a defamation claim in these lawsuits, but it's not a full-throated, he's defamed me. It could be that he believes either one, the speculation that these allegations are true, because truth is a great defense towards defamation, or two, that Drake may feel that it's only the icing on the cake and not the heart of the argument, that there may be too strong of an argument of defamation, in the sense that this could be opinion or another defense that Kendrick could raise, or he just doesn't see it as a battlefield that he needs to fight. The street cred of coming after someone after their words is not something that one rapper has done against another rapper, in at least my memory.
And Kevin, could opening this up in the legal space actually have a negative impact on Drake? Could this backfire?
I'm not sure about how it would impact his credibility, but I can't imagine it actually gets him more fans for doing something like this. But if you look at the streaming numbers, I don't think he's hurting either. So a defamation claim might seem like more whining than anything else.
All right, the drama continues. We'll see how this all plays out. We will all be watching. Brian Buckmeyer and attorney Kevin Cassini, thank you both.
Yeah, Drake said, I'm going after him so that he can shut it down. He doesn't want that song, They Not Like Us, played at the Super Bowl. And, you know, because they say defamation of character because what he's saying about Drake in there, but Drake is trying to pull a move on him. And he already knows that they get that music pushed that way. They understand that at the top. Everybody's music is pushed through the machine when they're mainstream at the top, because these people got to recoup their money. They want to make sure you go stream that. They want to make sure you listening to that. You downloading that. So of course, they gonna push it. And Drake knows it. They did it to him several times. They was pushing his music at the front of everything several times. And once they pushed Kendrick's music over his, he felt some type of way. Used to being number one all the time. And right now he ain't number one. So of course, he trying to flex, pull his card out. Man, I'm suing. People think these rappers is gangster. It's business. They know how to sell an image. And when they sell that image, you think there's something they're not. Yeah. And, you know, I guess he was acting like a gangster with XXXTentacion. And he wanted to get him knocked off, allegedly, because XXX says, if anything happens to me, check on Champagne Poppy. And then they say Drake has some connections to these guys. So, could it be? Champagne Poppy trying to play gangster and legal at the same time? It don't work out. He trying to play gangster and legal at the same time? Yeah. Yeah, we gonna check some of this out here with them talking about XXX and how Drake was linked to it. And we gonna play on that. Crazy.
In connection with the shooting death of the 20-year-old artist whose legal name was Jose Onfroy. Now, the jury deliberated a lot. They deliberated for a little more than 7 days before returning a guilty verdict. This was for Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, and Trayvon Newsom. Now, this murder occurred on June 18th, 2018, outside of Riva Motorsports. It's a motorcycle dealership in Deerfield Beach. It's a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And XXXTentacion had just withdrawn $50,000 in cash from a bank. He was leaving the store with a friend when his BMW was blocked by an SUV. In fact, surveillance footage from the scene actually captures this shocking moment as two masked gunmen, later identified as Boatwright and Newsom, emerged from the vehicle, confronted the rapper at his driver's side window.
Damn.
There is a brief but very violent exchange with one of the men shooting XXX repeatedly. Afterwards, they snatch a Louis Vuitton bag containing the cash that the rapper had just withdrawn, and they speed away in the SUV. Williams was accused of being the driver of that SUV. And the friend, by the way, who was with XXXTentacion during that attack wasn't injured, but he witnessed the murder. And
Luckily,
the jury's
he didn't get
deliberation
hit.
was lengthy, but ultimately they concluded that the evidence presented by the prosecution was sufficient. It was beyond a
lucky he
reasonable
didn't get
doubt,
hit.
enough to convict all three defendants. And that evidence included the surveillance footage. It included cell phone videos of the defendants flashing cash right after the shooting. It included incriminating text messages from Boatwright, including one right after the shooting saying, "Tell my brother I got money for the new phone." And then, just minutes after that, sending in a separate text message a news article about XXX getting shot. And I also have to mention the key testimony of the trio's accomplice, Richard Allen, who claimed that he was a part of this robbery and he implicated the defendants. He pled guilty to second-degree murder for his role in this killing. Hey, so before we jump into this story, I have something I gotta tell.
And now they want to put it on Drake. The guy put it on them, and I guess they want to put it on Drake, but we ready to see.
And a big focus of this is on Drake. It's also other issues
Y'all
that they're
see
bringing
that?
up, so I want to get
They
into
would
it
put it
right
on
now. And
Drake.
for that, I want to bring on Williams defense attorney Mauricio Padilla. Thank you so much for coming on, Mauricio. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for coming on right afterwards. So I wanted to talk about this with you, and we're going to get into more specifics of the appeal. But overall, big picture, big theme, what are you and the rest of the defense counsel arguing here?
Well, I am not arguing it. I'm not his appellate attorney. I was the trial counsel. So I'm just referencing what Mr. Patanzo, which is his appellate attorney, has stated in the brief. There's so many errors that it takes a while to even break it down. One of the main errors in my opinion in the case, which I had to sit through, argue, and live it, was the fact that in December of 2020, I filed a witness list. The state's reaction to that was to file a motion saying, we want the court to strike all of his witnesses, that's not even something that's legal or that you could do.
What?
You have to itemize who you want stricken. You just can't shotgun approach and say, I want all of his defense witnesses stricken. But the state attorney did that. In a hearing that I had to defend,
And that's deep right there.
myself in that motion, the court didn't grant that, but the court instructed me to file a pleading, which was the nexus in my defense witnesses and what nexus they had to my theory of defense, which I argued was inappropriate because at the end of the day, you're ordering me to give the state a blueprint of what my defense is going to be. But I was ordered to do it, and I did it.
And the prosecution know that's not right. You want to know my exact layout before trial? Come on, man.
When prior to Mr. Onfroy, which I'll refer to him as X for this interview because his stage name was XXXTentacion, which was the victim in this case. Prior to him being murdered, he had posted on Instagram, if anybody kills me, I'm snitching right now. It's champagne poppy. I'm paraphrasing, but something to that effect, right? So imagine the decedent said prior to his death, if anybody kills me, it's champagne poppy, which is Drake's Instagram name. I laid out in extreme detail all of my defense witnesses list, which included many rappers, because at the end of the day, the victim in this case was a rapper. He had feuds, ongoing public feuds with not only Drake, but a lot of rappers that are either signed to OVO or related to Drake in some way, including 600 Breezy, which is a Chicago-based rapper, and a rapper that's from Toronto by the name of, he goes by Top 5, which is Hassan Ali. And I had to lay that all out in detail. The court was fully aware of my theory of defense. Prior to that, I filed a motion to perpetuate the testimony of Livingston Allen, which goes by the name of DJ Academics, because DJ Academics was friends with X and had posted long YouTube, content regarding this beef. He actually posted YouTube saying that he was on the phone with X discussing the issue and the beef that he had with Drake, and specifically, X had either said or posted something about Drake's mom, and he had posted a picture of a Drake lookalike with semen on his face, and he wanted DJ Academics to post it on his own site, and he said, I'm not going to do that. And in that conversation, DJ Academics says that you better be careful because even though, and I'm paraphrasing again, even though he's not a gangster, you may be pushing him. As a reaction to that conversation, X goes and says that he takes it out off the post off of his website or off of IG, and he says that his Instagram was hacked. I laid that out in my motion to perpetuate the testimony, which a motion to perpetuate testimony is when you have a witness that is relevant to your defense and that lives beyond the jurisdictional limits of the court, and that you feel that you're not going to be able to bring them into court. So I'm basically asking the court to allow me to go to California or wherever I have to go, depose this individual, and now with his deposition, if he doesn't show up, I could use it in my defense or in my case in chief, right? So I did that, argued it to the court, and the court, in a reaction, basically said, I'm not going to grant your motion to perpetuate testimony, just take his depo. Let's just take it. So, okay, fine. I set a notice of hearing, went and served served Drake in his castle in Beverly Hills.
There's something that you mentioned, and I want to talk about this. So first of all, there was this deposition that was taken of XXXTentacion's mother, Cleopatra Bernard. She testified that Onfroy had this ongoing feud with Mr. Graham, Aubrey Graham, Drake. She said this feud with Graham included throwing shots at Onfroy and lyrics from one of Graham's songs. You mentioned that controversial statement that he made, "If anyone tries to kill me, it was champagne poppy." The question I want to start with as we get into the Drake conversation, were you arguing, or is appellate attorneys arguing that Drake was a part of this killing, that he was the one who did this, or are you arguing that it should have just been allowed, you should have been allowed to present evidence to suggest there were other potential leads that law enforcement really didn't look at into this case? So again, what exactly we're suggesting? Are you suggesting that Drake had a part in it, or that just it wasn't looked into and it shows a sloppy investigation and not a fair trial?
Well, in the brief and in what I was arguing in court is the latter. We are a defendant has every right to defend himself and to show reasonable doubt wherever it may be, and to fully investigate and articulate to a jury an alternate shooter defense, or an alternate, a defense where someone else, committed this crime. Am I going to sit here and tell you that Drake was holding a gun or Drake? But the facts as they are stated by X's own mother is that she knew about the beef with Drake and with Migos. She knew about the violence between Migos and her son, where there was a violent episode. She knew about 600 Breezy, which is a known admitted gang member from Chicago, going to South Florida and posting on social media saying that he's blicked up, which means that I have a gun, and she was concerned about it. She testified in the depo that she discussed it with her son. She testified that the reason that she wanted additional security with him the day he died was because of this beef with Migos and everything that we're discussing. So it was relevant, and for many months during the trial, January, February, even February 7th of 2023, the judge is agreeing with me. Okay, now there comes a moment and a hearing. He goes ahead and Drake hires, after the judge enters a rule to show cause, basically saying a purge date. You have to appear for depo on this day, or I'm going to do a writ of bodily attachment. He then goes and hires Brad Cohen, a friend of the show, friend of mine as well, an excellent attorney. And Brad files several motion to quash the subpoena, and he files a motion for protective order. We go back and forth, and the judge says, and the first time that Brad shows up to court, he says, "You know what? I'm gonna quash the rule to show cause. He's hired counsel. You guys can communicate and figure out when this step was gonna happen." Okay, so we go back and forth. We can't agree to it for various reasons, and I'm not gonna get into settlement negotiations
Sure.
on the show, but we can't agree. We go into court February 24th, I believe, on his motions. At that time, James Beard, which is the process server that served Drake, appeared as a witness, and I wanted to show video that he took of the actual attempted service, where it shows Drake's bodyguards, or the people that are in front of his house, refusing to cooperate. It showed one of Drake's employees kicking the subpoena down the road that leads to his mansion, and the judge didn't allow me to show that. Despite not allowing me to put forth that evidence, the judge did a 180 from telling me to figure it out, coordinate it, take the depo, did a 180, told me, why are you involving him? Granted the motion for protective order, granted the motion to quash my subpoena, allowed Mr. Cohen to argue California law without having a California expert there, and basically kind of chastised me about why are you bringing him into it. And as a matter of fact, he even we had taken the deposition of one of X's relatives regarding this beef, and she denied it, and the court said in open court, even his relatives said that it didn't exist, and I said, yeah, well, she's lying because the whole world knows about this beef. So for her to sit here and say that she didn't know about it it's on her credibility. So despite all of this, he does a 180. He not only grants the motion for protective order, basically saying that I can now serve him again.
Okay.
And it quashes the subpoena, but the state attorney, sensing there's blood in the water, says, Judge, I'm going to renew my motion to strike all his witnesses. Okay? Or tennis, no notice. And he says, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to strike Mr. Graham. So he struck in the middle of the trial. He struck Drake from my witness list, which is completely inappropriate, considering the history of the case.
Talk to me real quick about why you think the judge did this, because in the appellate brief, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is an accusation that the court might have been biased because of Drake's celebrity status. Correct me if that allegation is wrong, and in your opinion, why do you believe the court ultimately wouldn't allow the deposition of Drake?
I'll say that Judge Usong was a complete gentleman to me, and it was a pleasure to try the case in front of him. I do think that he made various reversible errors, and I think from the beginning he made a lot of calls that were unconstitutional, not legal, this being one of them. I don't want to speculate as to why, but when you're dealing with someone like Drake, which he's not a celebrity, he's a super celebrity. He's like in the stratosphere of fame. So when a judge does a 180 like that, I'll let the viewers or other people figure out why they think that it happened, but I'm not gonna speculate as to why it happened. But
no, I get that. I do want to ask you about this, because this is another part of the appeal, and that is with respect to the testimony of this gang expert, which was excluded in a pretrial hearing. And the defense, my understanding, wanted to call Jesse De La Cruz, who they had claimed, discovered visual evidence that Drake could have had ties to the same organization as a co-defendant in this case, Robert Allen. And I believe the brief states, Dr. Cruz's research revealed photos of Mr. Graham throwing the same gang signs as Allen, and Allen is that accomplice who I mentioned before who testified against his co-defendants. But Cruz also revealed that people who knew Drake were allegedly seen in XXXTentacion's neighborhood threatening him before he died. The brief reads, social media posts showed these same known Graham associates were seen in Onfroy's neighborhood threatening him just prior to the murder. And then they say even more revealing is this connection that Cruz made to Drake's song lyrics, because shortly after XXX was killed, the brief writes, Mr. Graham released a song entitled XXX with suspicious lyrics. SMS XXX, that's the only time I shot below the neck.
I'm going to look it up.
Cruz found another connection between the murder and Drake's lyrics in the song I'm Upset. The song I'm Upset contains lyrics regarding Louis bags for body bags, the implication there being that Drake was referencing murder. But ultimately, Cruz was completely excluded from the trial, and the jury did not hear any of his findings. Mauricio, I have that right. And can you emphasize that a little bit more? Can you explain that a little bit more?
yes, okay, so Dr. De La Cruz did proffer to the court everything that you've stated regarding the song lyrics, the fact that Drake was throwing gang signs that were the same gang signs that Allen was throwing up in different social media posts. The court strikes Dr. De La Cruz, which is a known gang expert and well known in his field, has testified over 150 times in trials. They allowed the state to put their own gang expert, Detective Polo, which really bolstered a lot of what Dr. De La Cruz said regarding the necessity to bring out this testimony. I don't believe that it, based on Daubert, which is the case that we look at when analyzing whether an expert is if it's appropriate for an expert to testify, I don't believe that was a legal call. I think it was error for him to do that and not allow us to put forth that testimony. And we put up pictures of Drake with Lil Wayne throwing up a Bloods gang sign and other evidence that Drake is out there flaunting gang ties. We put forth evidence of Hassan Ali, which is top 5 out there openly claiming on social media and video that he's Drake's shooter. And part of the theory of defense is to show, listen, even though these people are entertainers, okay, there's a gang related portion of it. There's a gang related side to it. And X's own mother testified that she knew about this, that she knew about when 600 Breezy traveled from wherever he was, whether it's Chicago to South Florida. She knew about it. She talked to him about it. So this case had more than ample evidence and ample reason to involve a gang expert.
To be clear, though, you were allowed to argue that someone else could have been responsible for this killing because you questioned, cross-examined Allen on cross-examination, suggesting that he had this link to Drake. But my understanding is you're arguing now that the trial court had put limits on your cross-examination of Allen, that violated your client's rights. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're 100% correct. And they did it not only with Allen, but they did it all throughout the trial.
Okay.
With Allen admitted that his father, known drug dealer, known firearms dealer, as the brief states, produced at least one of the guns that was used in this. When I asked him about his father and ties to Toronto and drug dealing, the state objected, and the judge didn't allow that question. So it was a constant battle for me to try and basically do my job and show where reasonable doubt existed. With Allen, with Detective Curcio, the problem here is also that the state attorney, on direct of Detective Curcio, which was the lead detective in the case, she asked, "Do you have any information that Drake was involved in this?" And that was before the court struck him. So whatever the reasons may have existed, the moment that the state attorney opens up their mouth and says that, now he's really at issue, because now
you're opening the door. You're opening the door to that coming in.
Yes. And not only was it an issue of her mentioning it with Detective Curcio, but she asked him, you actually were able to verify whether or not Drake was in South Florida at the time. So in cross-examination, I asked, why would you have to verify if he was in South Florida? Why? Because he's a person of interest. And then I had to further ask, well, what did you do to, and I'm paraphrasing, what did you do to figure out whether he was in South Florida? He says, oh, my partner checked social media. So then I said, okay, so in a homicide case, the best that Broward Sheriff's Office has for a jury is to peep his Instagram. So it was basically breaking down the poor job that BSO did in their investigation and the tunnel vision that they had, and the fact that none of this was in the report. So you felt it important enough to check and verify whether or not he was in South Florida, but you never memorialized it in your report, and I'm not allowed to ask about it.
Well, did he also testified, Detective Curcio, that he learned that Onfroy, XXX, had been attacked by members of Migos, right? Migos is the rap group that's associated with Drake. Was that came in, and again, you weren't able to expand upon that?
Not only did that come in, but when I asked him in cross-examination, isn't it true that the first time that the name Migos comes out in this case was a month after the murder, in the first conversation that you yourself had with the cooperating co-defendant Allen? He didn't remember. I had to refresh his recollection, and right there in the transcribed conversation, it basically showed that Allen, the cooperator, said the name Migos in the first conversation that they had. So it basically showed that I wasn't making this up. Like, I'm not creating it. The facts were there before I even ever alleged their involvement or filed a motion in court. They're checking to see whether or not Drake is in South Florida. That was years before I mentioned it. And Allen is saying is talking about Migos to the lead detective a month after the murder. This is years before I filed anything regarding my theory of defense. So it was just to show that this is part of the case.
Right. And the argument is that your client didn't get a fair shake, didn't get a fair trial because you couldn't expand upon this and introduce this. I want to move quickly past Drake and ask you a couple different questions about this appeal. Speaking about Detective Curcio, I understand that there's also an objection that your team has with him providing opinion testimony on cell phone data. Can you talk about that real quick, what the issue was with Detective Curcio there?
Okay, well, the issue is that Broward County did not list a forensic expert, okay? And they tried to put forth expert testimony through someone by the name of Campvani and through Detective Curcio, and the court allowed them to give expert opinion as to locations of cell phones and things that are specifically left to experts, because when you list somebody as an expert, then that opens up the doors to discovery that we can take depositions of them and put us on notice to the specific details that they're going to testify to as an expert. That didn't happen in this case. And what they allowed was this individual named Campani. They allowed him to basically put forth expert testimony, and he put forth a visual aid that he had prepared a week prior to his testimony. Okay, we were ambushed with it, and there he basically put little dots where he testified where the cell phones were exactly, and they allowed Detective Curcio to also give that type of testimony. Now, Detective Curcio is extremely experienced. I'm not going to take that away from him, and this individual Campani as well. But just because you're experienced doesn't take away the obligation of Broward County to do things correctly. This is a murder case and a high-profile one at that.
There's a number of different other points that are raised in this appeal. There's things like allowing prior bad acts to come into this trial, allowing an out-of-court statement from defendant Newsom, which you argue was his Williams defense attorneys are saying was prejudicial. If you can, what's another big area of appeal? Is it any of those two that you really think could be problematic? Why your client? Well, I guess the idea is he deserves a new trial, right?
Yes, yes, and the two things that you mentioned are pretty egregious. The one of the Newsom is really shocking. Like, they basically on redirect of Detective Curcio asked them questions and brought in a hearsay statement regarding a completely separate murder investigation that he says that he found without authenticating the cell phone, and basically said that Newsom had told somebody in some dating app or something that he had buried money in his house. And so the judge buried money, he could be catching life, and a really incriminating statement. But Detective Curcio didn't have to authenticate that. They didn't have to show what cell phone it came from. Basically, he just said, I saw this in another case. And the problem is that my client is sitting at the same table with this individual that now the court has allowed this, extremely prejudicial information to come in. So that was a humongous reversible error, in my opinion, that affected not only my client's case, but everybody that was sitting there at table, including all the co-defendants.
Moving forward, though, what can we expect in terms of a timeline of appeal? When will this be heard? When will this be decided? If a new trial is granted, how does that work? Because now it's about the timeline of events. What should we expect?
You know what? I don't practice appellate law, and those are questions that I don't really want to give misleading answers to. Okay. So I don't want to give the wrong answers regarding appellate. I don't really do appellate law, but at some point they're going to file a responsive brief, and I think that the court could invite. I think the way it is nowadays, the court can invite oral argument. When I first started practicing law, you had the right to give oral argument. I think now it's only by invitation when the appellate court wants to hear your arguments. But yeah, I mean, listen, when I read this. This was an 11-week trial. The jury was out 8 days. It's not like if the jury didn't think about it and came back in 90 minutes and convicted our client. The jury struggled. They had to have struggled because 8 days is. I've never had a case that the jury's been out that long, and it was clear that they had questions, and I really wasn't able to properly defend my client. Mr. Williams did not get a fair trial. When I read this, I think there's like some kind of a defense mechanism when you try a case for 11 weeks that you start forgetting things. When I read this, it brought it all back, and it reminded me of really how unfair the judge was with Mr. Williams, and the detrimental effects that it had for me to be able to properly defend my client.
Well, listen, Mauricio, I appreciate you coming on here, pleading your case, pleading for these these arguments that his appellate team will be making now to a higher court, breaking it down for us, because it can get a bit complicated in the weeds, but you really made it clear for us. So thank you so much, Mauricio Padillo, Mr. Williams' lawyer. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Justin.
All right.
Yeah. Drake's into a lot. They still looking at him for the XX situation, and I don't think he had anything to do with it, even though, you know, all these rappers use that beef so that they can boost their sales. So I really don't think Drake was involved with XXX's murder. But Drake is definitely suing. Drake is suing. He said, Kendrick, you're not going to play that song at the Super Bowl. That's what it is. Drake don't want that song played at the Super Bowl. And he knows that song is going to be real heavy. Even though I'm like, the song was alright, but they know that song is going to be real heavy. Let me see. Hold on. What did Drake say here? Hold on. Yeah, Drake is definitely going to sue, man. You already know how the industry go. Everybody played tough until this moment. When this moment comes, everybody's suing. It's the game, man. It's the game. Yeah. Drake is definitely sick right now because the number one spot is not in his favor. And people get like that. When they lose that position from the machine, all these artists, man, when the machine is not behind them, they start crying. They start saying how things is not on their side, you know. But when the machine is behind them, they got their chest poked out. And we know the machine is behind them because the radio is playing them every single second. You got to pay for those radio spins. I hope y'all know that. They not putting you on the radio for free. You got to pay for them. And yeah. Let's see here what it says.
Drake is filing a petition against Universal Music Group and Spotify, accusing the companies of, quote, artificially inflating the spread of Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. In the New York court filing, Drake alleges UMG and Spotify, quote, deceived consumers into believing the song was more popular than it was.
Yeah, I feel that. Hold up.
Biggie and the world that made him. Justin Tinsley joins me now for more. Justin, thanks for coming on. First, I just want to get your reaction. What did you think when you first heard the claims in this petition?
Wow. Like, in the history of rap beef and all the rap beefs that I've covered in my career and all the rap beefs that I've read about over the course of the genre's entire history, from Ice Cube and NWA to obviously Tupac and Biggie, Jay-Z and Nas, so on and so forth, you've never actually seen potential litigation come into play. So when I saw this drop yesterday, I was like, wow, this is definitely a new frontier in terms of rap beef.
Now, how big of a deal is it for a star like Drake to be alleging that one of the largest music labels in the world and streaming platforms in the world were basically conspiring against him to promote this diss track?
It's a potential bombshell because what he filed was a petition, which is not to be confused with the lawsuit. Basically, a petition is going to allow his lawyers to look at evidence or search for evidence that they alleged in that petition. Now, if they find things to their liking or find things to their interest, they could potentially file a lawsuit. But like you said, this is one of the biggest stars in the world, one of the biggest music labels in the world, one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, and he's alleging foul play. He's alleging that they juked the numbers in terms of helping his rival, his foe out, and in terms to hurt him. So it could potentially be a major lawsuit when we're looking at in terms of the intersections of the not criminal justice system, but law enforcement, law, courts, and hip hop, which already has a storied history to begin with.
Now, Drake's petition also accuses UMG and Spotify of paying social media influencers to promote Not Like Us. But Not Like Us also debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It broke the Hot Rap Songs chart record for the most weeks at a time. So if his allegations are true, could that all be tied into this, or does that make this case more difficult for him?
Honestly, here's the thing, Diane. I don't know if anyone would be surprised if numbers were manipulated in some sort, because you got to think about it. There's always been some sort of pay-for-play situation going on with the music industry. This is long before streaming, long before the internet came into play. But here's the thing about Not Like Us. What can't be manipulated is the cultural touchstone that it became over the spring and the summer. What can't be manipulated is how marching bands at colleges are playing this every weekend during football games, or how it's being played at wedding receptions, how it's being played at homecomings. You can't manipulate the cultural impact that this song had. And that's one thing that Drake, no matter what becomes of this potential lawsuit, he can't take away from that. This song was a major hit, and it's up for several major awards at the Grammys next year, including Song of the Year.
All right, senior culture reporter at ESPN's Anscape, Justin Tinsley. We appreciate it always, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The game, man. The game. You know, they make the industry look like it's something that it's not. We look at these people when they at the top like they really got there from the talent. Nah. You got to be placed there. You got to do those ritual things to get there. They not putting you in position if they ain't got something on you. We do know that. And when they get tired of you, that's it for you. You got a job to do, but you can't challenge the master. And, you know, some of these dudes get in position and don't understand that. You can't challenge the master because they run you. When you sign those contracts to them labels, you no longer own your name. They own your name, your likeness, and everything. So you got to pay attention. That's why Kanye changed his name to Ye. Somebody else owned Kanye. You hear me? That's the game. When you sign them contracts, somebody owns you and they pass you around. When another label buy you, that's where you go at. That's why the masters always stay at the top in position, and you never see them, you never hear nothing from them, but you always hear the artists going through different things. The artists are always complaining about their deal because these people at the top already got a design. You're not getting in here unless you do what we want you to do. It's the game, man. You're not getting in there unless you do what we want you to do. And that's just what it is. That's the game. You got to understand that. We can want whatever we want. We can hope for whatever we hope for. But you're not getting in there unless you are a part of the game. And they keep you a part of the game, right? So that they got something over your head. Let's be real. They keep you a part of the game. They want to make sure they got something over your head.
In this pre-action submission can mask the fact that the fans choose the music they want to hear. So it's like that. And the headlines for Drake have been brutal. From Drake and the art of extending an L to Billboard straight up asking, can Drake regain his credibility? Music journalist Sumia Krishnamurthy is with us now. She's also the author of Fashion Killer, How Hip Hop Revolutionized High Fashion, and the upcoming book, Rockefeller Records, An American Rap Dynasty. Thank you for being on with me. Let me start here with, is Drake whining or does he have a plausible case?
This is definitely a case of whining. You know, when you look at the origins of hip hop, the competitive spirit is so intrinsic. And in one of the biggest rap battles we've ever seen in our lifetime, who would have thought it would potentially end in a courtroom? It's unprecedented.
Let me read here from this petition, and it's not a lawsuit, so I want to be clear about that. It's just a petition, potentially pre-action, but this is page 5. Drake's attorney claims that UMG had a deal with Apple Quote, online sources reported that when users asked Siri to play the Certified Lover Boy album by Drake, Siri instead played Not Like Us, which contains the lyric certified pedophile, an allegation against Drake. You know, when I first read that, it sounded like Trump saying that the Dominion voting machines were changing Trump votes to Biden votes. But what are these online
Make sure y'all
sources?
hit that like
How
button.
prevalent
Share
were
this
these
video
reports
for me,
that it was changing
please.
what's played?
So I'm going to be honest, I actually did the test during this time and it did work. When you said, hey, Siri, play Certified Lover Boy, it did play Not Like Us.
Really?
So it did, yes. I actually posted a video on my YouTube and social media, but I think we all knew that it was pulling from the lyrics. So I think Apple could have an argument. People were searching for that song, or that's what their algorithm was kicking up, because it is not just titles, it's also lyrics. So there's a little bit of nuance there.
Okay. UMG denies the claims, as we said at the top, but the company did settle a payola case for $12 million back in 2006 that claimed that they bribed radio stations and to play their artist. Is it plausible? I mean, and also, if they did this for Kendrick, how prevalent are these practices to say that Drake didn't benefit from these at some other time?
Of course he did.
Yeah, and
Of
that's
course.
what a lot of industry insiders
Of course
are
he
saying.
did.
It could the entirety of his career, Drake really has enjoyed this privilege, being an industry darling, being the most streamed artist on Spotify for hip hop.
that.
Even now, I think the last time I checked, his monthly uniques on Spotify are more than Kendrick. If we go back to 2018, there was a huge campaign where every single Spotify playlist was Drake, whether it was hip hop, pop, country, gospel. So these campaigns by these streaming services or companies, they're not uncommon. But the question is Drake now bitter or whining because he's not the beneficiary?
I read some of the headlines in the intro to our conversation. How much does this hurt his credibility?
Nah, it don't hurt his credibility.
I think
at
a
all.
lot.
Nah.
You know, it's one thing to lose a rap battle, but the hand of your adversary and say, hey, good game. I think that's good sportsmanship. But this to me just really seems like whining. It seems like when things don't go his well, I think you alluded to it earlier, it has that very much stop the steal energy. That doesn't do too well in hip hop.
Soumya Krishnamurthy, thank you so much for explaining to us. And I am genuinely surprised that if you said Certified Lover Boy, you got Not Like Us. I'm going to try it. I don't know if it still works, but I'll check with Siri after the show.
Yeah, you already know. Drake is crying about this. He's so used to being number one. He's used to them pushing his music, and now they pushing somebody else's music on the label. And you got to think about this. Universal Music Group probably gets more money off of Kendrick. So their deal with Kendrick, their percentage is probably heavier than Drake's. Well, I guarantee you it's heavier than Drake's because Drake's been doing it for so long, he's had room to negotiate, right? Kendrick don't got the same room as Drake. And I'm sure they wanted to get that bag off Kendrick. And they use both artists against each other. And they on the same label. That's how you got to understand it's their game. It's their game, man. And they know how to play it. We going to be real. They know how to play that game. Yes, they do. And they got Drake real upset about this. He done went the legal way. And I really think it doesn't hurt his image. Because dudes is telling now. They cooperating. Like literally pointing the finger on the stand and still making albums and selling them. So it's not going to hurt his career. It's just giving him attention, honestly. And that's, you know what I mean, my take on it. It's just giving him attention. And he making sure that song don't get played at the Super Bowl. You hear me? He want to make sure, because they said Drake was in the club telling him cut that off. They not like us. Come on, man, cut that off. We don't want to hear that. Not right now. And then he talking about him being a pedophile. So that's a sticky situation, making that kind of accusation on a person. So I'm sure Drake made sure he put the heat on him for that. You can do a lot of things, but when you start making those accusations, if you don't respond right on them, they become true. I'm going to be real with you on that. If you don't respond right on that, they become true. Big facts. Let me see here. They become true. And Champagne Poppy, he getting heats from all angles. I tell you that right now. Got the heat from XXXTentacion for the appeal, and now he getting the heat for the suing the lawsuit. Okay, yeah. You ain't been here, Michael. What's going on, brother? The Drake and the XX situation. One of the guys convicted for the XXX killing, he is appealing his conviction, and his lawyers is trying to present to the appeal court that they didn't allow anything about the accusations of Drake having something to do with it to be put in there, and they dubbed him on the things that they were going to try to put in involving Drake. They tried to serve Drake a subpoena. His people at the front door didn't allow the subpoena to get served. So you already know if you don't get served a subpoena, then it's nothing. You know what I mean? You got to get served that subpoena to be forced to come to court. And they tried to serve the subpoena to force him to come to court. And his bodyguards at the door, they said he kicked it down the street. So the lawyers is trying to argue that they were trying to connect Drake to the XXXTentacion killing, but the judge overruled anything that would allow them to reference anything about Drake. And Drake, XXX had beef with Drake and Migos, and the lawyer wanted to put that in there. So the lawyer's arguing that his client didn't get a fair trial because they didn't allow that information in there, which they should have, especially if the person that got killed said, if something happens to me, check on Champagne Poppy. That should have been allowed in there from the door. No ifs, ands, or buts. And allow the jury to make a decision. But but I guess they might not had proof, I guess, but I'm sure they had some kind of proof because they bringing it up that he said Champagne Poppy, check on him if something happens to me. Drake's name is all in the mix right now, and he got his own legal actions that he's putting on people. So, Drake is in the mix right now. Honestly. Yeah. And the situation got real, real sticky. Got real, real sticky. Drizzy Drake. Say Drizzy Drake. Yeah. That got sticky, man. But you got to understand, right? These artists is going to sue you. They talk all that heavy stuff. Y'all see what's going on with Ply, Soulja Boy, and Meg and them. Y'all see what's going on. Them artists going to sue. All that cocky talk. They talk that cocky talk, but at the end of the day, it's business. And if a lot of artists understand that coming into the game, they might last longer. Because artists is getting there thinking that it's real street business going on over there. Nah. When it get messy, the artist going to hide from you and sue you. That's the game. They're not going to sit there and go to war with you. Especially, and you're not on their level. You got to understand that. You come in the game, yeah, you might got a hot track, but they're going to take you to court. That's where the business lies. The business don't lie in the street. Everybody already know in the street you're going to trick yourself out of position. So at this level, they going to court. Easy. Why wouldn't they go to court? It's the easiest thing to do. And they paying attorneys to do the paperwork, and attorneys get paid afterwards. Man, take the case. They got them on payroll already. Man, file this suit. Attorney on go. So you already know that's what it is. Drake is like, man, I'm suing. You said that I was on some pedophile stuff. Like, hold on. All right, it's rap beef, and that's cool. Champagne Poppy is Drake. Yes, he is. Yeah, that's him. You already know. It's when it's war, it's war. And they go into these legal phases where they're going to take you to court. It don't make no sense for somebody to try to beef with you and shoot it out when I can go get more money off you for disrespecting me. We got to pay attention to that. Like, real. If I can get more money for you disrespecting me, what is me trying to touch you going to do? We got to start thinking like that as a unit. Like, come on. What I'm going to do, just get my frustration off? That's it. What about when I get some more money and I go spend it and I get to enjoy myself? I can get frustration off that way too. That's how you looking at the game. For real. Yeah, that's how you looking at the game. They say, hold up. Let me see here, hold up. Let me get a segment out of here, hold up. Let me see if I can get a segment out of here. Let me see if I can get a segment out of here, hold up.
His crisis management, he should take a hard look at them because I just think he looks like such a weak. I mean, it feels weak.
A lot of people say you lost the beef, and now to do this, it makes you look infinitely worse.
So we decided, who are we to make that judgment?
Right.
So we thought we'd bring in a legend, and a legend
Cute.
who knows something about rap beats.
Cute.
And I'm so excited about this. I just love him. So Ice Cube, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, we
Anytime.
so appreciate it. So what do you think about this? So Drake is now he's going to sue Universal, arguing somehow that that song is not as popular as people think.
I don't know. It seems a little lawyerish. It's like I would rather heard the track, but
right.
I guess got to do what he got to do. I wasn't even paying attention to their beef. You know what I mean? I'm listening to that Man Down album, so I'm on all day long. You know what I mean? So they can have
promoting his
Of
own
course,
thing.
Yeah, Man
There
Down,
you go.
Cube's new album dropped on
Right.
Friday. You can already tell the fans absolutely love music. Anytime Cube drops new music. Cube, what would you have said to Drake if he had called you and said, hey, you're a legend, like you've been through things like this before. What's the advice here? I'm thinking about filing this suit.
I would just, say the timing is probably not great. And,
Right.
I don't know how much advice I would give him because, it's obviously, got something to do with more than just Kendrick. It seems like it's business back there involved.
You mean business involving Universal, where they kind of got to choose which side they're on?
Well, I think Universal and Drake are in the middle of a deal. This is what I hear. I don't know for sure.
Ice Cube's in them circles. He know.
This may have something to do with that.
Cube, and I don't know if what has now happened with Drake changes how you feel about this, but I know in one of your new tracks, you obviously, you name drop Kendrick Lamar. You're an LA guy. He's an LA guy. Kendrick, the winner of this thing now when it's all said and done, especially after this lawsuit?
It seemed like it. He's a great artist. They both great artists. So, everybody got to stay tuned. It's an ongoing, back and forth. So we all going to check it out. I like both artists, at the end of the day. Both of them, got bangers. So I'm sitting back watching the show as an OG. My fans loving my music, and that's really all that matters to me right now.
What is the approach, Cube? Because you've been making music for so long. You're so beloved. I know I've heard you talk about, getting back to your roots as a young musician with this album. What was the approach with the new project, Cube?
Do something that was, quintessential Ice Cube for my day one fans. People that's been down with me for almost 40 years. I was only focused on them.
Cube still making music.
They gotta kind of get in where they fit in on this record. It's West Coast, the melodies, that flow. I got a lot of my partners on the record, from, Exhibit to Corrupt to Snoop, E40, Too Short, Be Real. So, and my man JD, who just, got back from doing, over 25 years in the penitentiary. So it's a homecoming to me.
I want to ask you something. In a way, rap battles have kind of been the precursor to social media. That, everybody on social media, they're throwing shade at one another, and then all of a sudden, everybody talks about it. It was done on records long before social media existed.
Before Twitter.
And before Twitter and before all of that. They're just copying the kind of battles that were going back and forth on records long before social media even existed.
Yeah, man, even before that, even before records, we were battling.
Hey, man, make sure y'all hit that like button and that subscribe for me, please.
In the neighborhoods, in the streets, on the school quads, battling is the essence of the music. It's like sparring to boxing. It goes down in nooks and crannies all over the world. Guys battling each other, really getting their skills together to make a record one day. Or, it's just part of the music. It's been there since day one. And you always have these heavyweight battles that pop up every now and then. And it actually re-energizes the music.
Yeah.
Q, before we let you go, and I hope the answer to this is no, you hadn't made a solo album in like 5 years or so. This not the last album? You're planning more music in the future?
If the man down, you got to go man up. So
Right.
There you go. I'm glad you said that.
Right, Q. Q said, after man down, you got to go man up. It don't stop. The game don't stop, man. I'm sure Cube enjoys doing what he do, especially having his hand in all the entertainment things. I'm definitely sure he enjoys what he does at that level. Yeah, man. What y'all think about Drake dropping the lawsuit, man? Why Drake ain't just come back with some bangers? Why he ain't just run through him with the bangers? And if he wanted to sue him, go ahead and sue him, but still come back with the music, man. Y'all know we wanted to hear the music, man. Straight up. We wanted to hear the music, man. Drake said, this is business. This ain't personal, it's business. But the only thing is, Drake did drop the lawsuit, but then he got his goons in the back talking like they ready to go to war. I mean, are you going to go to court or are you going to go to the street? That's the only thing that I say. Are you going to go to court or go to the street? I would rather go to court because the streets ain't going to do nothing but take you out the game. But Drake is using his minions to act street. Come on, man. Now you want to use the minions to get out here and play that street mentality until somebody tricks themselves out of position. That's all it's going to happen. It happens to them every single time. When they think they living in World War whatever, they go straight to jail or they die. It's the game, man. Yeah, it's the game. Yeah, Drake is definitely like, hold on, man. I'm shut this down. I'm shutting it down. I don't want nothing. He trying to get the whole record removed. And whatever they made off the record, he wants some. That's what Drake is doing. Drake wants some of that money off the record. who y'all think gonna win the lawsuit? Drake or Kendrick? Kendrick said he was on some petty stuff. He said the pedophile stuff. Drake suing him for defamation. Now, you know what would be crazy? If some allegations come out the blue. If somebody come out with the allegations on Drake, that would be crazy right now, at this time. Because that would make the song a little bit valid. It wouldn't be as defamation as Drake trying to put it if somebody come out and push the lawsuit on him. Let's talk about that. At this time, and like Cube said, I don't think it was the right time for him to drop the lawsuit because it was a rap beef. You were supposed to come back just how he came. But you know, I guess Drake felt that it was nothing he could say that could come harder than him talking about him being a petty and all that extra stuff. So he said, I got to take it to the court. Hold up. And you already know people was probably referencing that to him. Yo, man, you on some petty stuff. Pedophile. And Drake said, we going to make sure we nip this in the bud. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I drop my suit so we can shut that all down. Because what's going to happen is we about to stop hearing They Not Like Us. How we hear it on the radio all the time, we about to stop hearing it. It's going to fade right out. Because they've been playing They Not Like Us back to back, back to back. Like, got me tired of hearing it. I ain't even going to hold you. Yeah, it got me tired of hearing it, man. I've been hearing They Not Like Us. I'm like, man. Yeah. And then they want to keep comparing Kendrick to Weezy. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Drake said, hold up. I know how to get at you jokers, man. I'm going to get at you jokers straight like this. And Joe Button says Drake's career is over. How can Drake's career be over when Drake know how to make them songs? We already seen these dudes cooperating and stuff, and they still making music. It's the game. Yeah. But I want to make sure y'all hit that subscribe button for me, man. Make sure I hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? It's your boy DZ. We in the building. About to start streaming a lot more heavy. And I appreciate everybody that watches the channel, man. Y'all the best. I appreciate y'all. No cap. No cap. Yeah. But I already think something great come out of this against Drake. I ain't gonna lie. Once them people start playing that legal game with their labels, it seems that they start going down. Once they start playing the legal game with the label, they start going down. Because, you know, the labels is tied in with the people that's running television, everything. Everything that is entertainment, the labels is tied in. So once you start challenging them people, they coming for your top. Big facts. Yeah, they coming for your top. They said Drake is sore loser. Yeah, I would agree. He should at least drop something. If you wanted to soon, we wanted to hear something, Drake. Drake ain't dropped nothing, man. Yeah, man. Drake ain't dropped nothing, man. At all. They said, well, Charlamagne the guy closed out Drake lawsuit. Yeah. What Charlamagne say? Let me see what Charlamagne said. Let's see what he said. He said he predicted that he would sue him 6 months ago. Let's see what he said. Hold up.
Lawsuit.
No.
That motherfucker is gonna sue. Listen.
Why? He needs to
listen,
sue all the investigators on
No.
Twitter have been pulling all the stories.
The investigators on Twitter ain't got shit to lose. Let me tell you something. Drake is half white.
Exactly.
Okay?
Y'all about to talking about that.
Drake mama side of the family is like, oh no, Aubrey. No. This man is out here calling you a pedophile. Listen, there's probably people at Nike. There's probably people at Universal. There's people that got real vested interest in Drake. That is a multi-billion dollar entity.
Yeah.
They're like, you gotta protect your name. Fuck all that rap shit. Yeah. Call your cousin. Call your cousin who's the lawyer. All right.
But then he just gonna prove Kendrick right.
Who said Kendrick was wrong? Drake knows he's half white.
No, I'm just saying of what Kendrick was just saying how he don't know his black. Like
he's not suing.
I'm not saying like I can see him suing.
Yeah. And Charlamagne called it. Charlamagne called it, man. Yes, he did. People got to understand. That's how the industry works. It's a lot of suing going on over there, man. You know, they think because they talk street in the music that they really street. Or they got a couple hitters that's willing to get busy for them. Come on, man. I know what it is. I know what it is, man. Drake ready to get the bag from this. And he ain't even had to make a song. Is it work smarter or work harder? Which one? If Drake understood, let me go ahead at it at this angle and get this money, we looking at it like, man, you should have came back with an album, man. We should have had a song. We want to hear something. He's like, I'm going to let y'all hear something. I'm going to let y'all hear this check that they going to cut me. That's what I'm going to let y'all hear. Y'all going to hear this check. They about to cut me one. And most likely, they going to settle out, man. Because he said it. You said he was a petty. But then they might go to, it's just art. So I'm wondering, and if this situation, they're going to allow him to say that it was only art. That's it. Whatever he said is just art. Because you know they're using the words against you in court now. So are they going to, for a civil suit, say that that was just art? Or are they going to say that was defamation? What y'all think? Yeah, I don't think they're going to say it's just art. You know, because Charlamagne said, you know, Drake's mom, they on the white side, they going to be on him, suing the pants off of him. Let me see. Because he lost. I'm trying to see if I can get Charlamagne spot on there what he was saying. But you know, Drake gonna still make music. I believe he gonna continue to make music. And he's still gonna drop bangers. As long as he delivered, they're going to let the lawsuit and whatever the court battled, it's going to go out the window. As long as he delivers. Now, if he don't deliver, they're going to hold it on him. You know, the people are going to hold it on him. That's if he don't deliver. But you know, the industry is real funny, man. These dudes play a dirty game. And people really think that they are street. Now, they might got some street dudes around them that are willing to get busy, that are willing to crash out for the little money that they not going to get when they get locked up. But the artists, they don't want no smoke, man. Most of them. Every now and then you get somebody that really came from the street and don't know how to transition. That's a bad thing. If you really came from the street and don't know how to transition, you already know what's going to happen. They're going to trick you out of your spot. It's the game. And Champagne Poppy said, I'm not even going to allow these dudes to trick me out of spot. Yeah. I'm not even going to allow these dudes to trick me out of my spot. Champagne Poppy. Yeah, let me see what Drake talking about. Let me see, hold on. Mm-hmm. And if you pay attention to all the people Drake do interviews with, they are not from the culture. I don't know if y'all pay attention to that, but all the people Drake do interviews with, they are not from the culture, man. Straight up. He like, man, I ain't letting y'all dudes get next to me. I make music for y'all, but y'all ain't getting next to me. Yeah. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button for me, man. I really appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button for me. You know, I really, really appreciate that. Let me see what this one say here. You see it? There's some
tweets. Drake claims he wasn't cool in high school. What made you uncool?
I just didn't. It wasn't that I wasn't cool. It was that the kids that were cool, I wasn't on their wavelength, which made me sort of uncool, I guess. So like, you know, it was. I just always felt like an outsider. I went when I was in Forest Hill. You know, it was an all Jewish school, like, and just being biracial but still being Jewish. So I was like kind of connected to the kids, but like sort of distant. And when kids are young, they don't necessarily comprehend everything.
Right.
So it can get a little cruel and a little mean.
Did you get teased a lot?
Yeah. I mean, I got it, I got it, definitely.
Were you raised Jewish by your mom?
Not like Orthodox Jew or like extremely religious Jewish. I was, I mean, we celebrated every holiday and I actually had a bar mitzvah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I was raised in a Jewish household, I would say. But my mother's my mother was always like, you do what makes you happy. You be with who you want to be with, and as long as you're happy, as long as you're safe, and you're not bringing trouble into my home, we're good.
Okay. That was Drake before the Drake that we got now. That was Drake before the Drake. Yeah, that was Drake before the Drake. Yeah, why is it Drake? Yeah, that was Drake before the Drake, man. Yeah, man. It's your boy DZ, man. We're about to get out of here. And I appreciate everybody that watches the channel. I appreciate everybody that subscribes, man. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share this video. And, we'll be back. I appreciate y'all, man. It's your boy DZ. It's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Nah.